Okay, I'm going to walk around with the fishbowl, and then we're going to get started. Fold your card in half, please. I'll pick you up in a second. I'll pick you up on the way back. Anybody down here? You good? Anybody back here have a card? Right here, behind you. Fold it in half. There you go. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to tell you how this is going to go. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Donna Mitchell. And this is my husband, Russell Hutton. We own YeeHaw Saloon. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I was fortunate enough to be able to visit with all three of the candidates one-on-one. And I thought it was really important to hear from each and every one of them, to be informed. So that's why we put on the meet and greets that were wonderful. We had a great turnout on all three of them. And this tonight, I'm going to ask you to be polite. This is a gentleman's debate. No booing. If you make rude comments, we're going to ask you to leave, okay? Because that way we can keep it nice. What we'll do is we're going to pull out a question. All three candidates will answer the same question. Buddy will be the first one. We'll ask him the question, and then Chris will have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Then Buddy will have 30 seconds to respond to that rebuttal. Then Nick will have 30 seconds and 30 seconds, and so on down the line, okay? So we're going to pull cards. We're going to start, and at 7:30 or so, we'll take a break so everybody can stretch their legs, use the restroom, get something to drink, and then we'll start. We'll take about a 15-minute break, and we'll start again. Then we'll stop about 8:45 so we can have final closing statements, and we'll go from there, okay? So I'm going to let everyone do a little introduction. So we'll start with Buddy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Donna. I'd like to first of all thank each and every one of y'all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come in here and this evening and listen to us. I think it's very important because an informed citizen is a person that can make an informed decision when it comes time to vote. I've had over 43 years of combined law enforcement experience, 32 years serving here in Gillespie County, and 15 years as your sheriff. I'm dedicated to excellence, integrity, and community service. I serve with a passion that's probably second to none because I am a very 24/7 sheriff. I'm always working. I'm always available for calls. I want you to know that my experience, not only here locally, throughout the state and nationally, brings me to the table, brings a lot of knowledge and skills and abilities that I possess to be your sheriff and to continue to be your sheriff. For 15 years, I've already been doing it. Shortly after I got in office in 2009, I had the Texas Jail Commission in here to examine our old jail that we had, and we were able to pass a bond election shortly thereafter with the thanks of y'all, the citizens that voted for it. We have a 96-bed facility here that is serving our county well, because when I moved here in 1992, Gillespie County was already housing prisoners in other communities. I have served as the president of the Sheriff's Association, which is a deep honor that I am proud of. It takes a long time to get through that process, and fortunately this year was a legislative session when I served. So I worked extensively with the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor's office, representatives and senators up there to pass some great legislation on behalf of law enforcement. Senate Bill 22 is one of them that's come out of that, and that's one of them. And I'm the first one here. I hope I don't mess it up, Donna. Something that I'm very proud of. Is that what I'm supposed to watch? Okay. With that, that's me. I've got some other answers here, and if you have, and some of the questions, you'll find out more about me as the night goes on.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to tell you, 2 minutes in the introduction. Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, good evening again. Thank you all for being here. One of the things when I moved here in 1999 was the way that people treated me and received me into the Gillespie County area, and how they treated me respectfully and gave me an open door to be a part of a community, to be a part of the county, made it a place that, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, I had gone through a lot 3 years prior to moving to Gillespie County. I had been involved in a lot of major things. I had actually had a major accident. I lost all my teeth. I had to have major facial reconstruction. Coming to Fredericksburg, I was still at doubt if I'd ever have that smile back. And as I started working with the people here, started volunteering to different programs, and then eventually would work at the high school for 22 and a half years, I did get my smile back. And it's because of the kindness and the people that are part of this community is why this is where I want to be as a sheriff. And I will be that. I want to repay back what you guys gave to me when I first moved to Fredericksburg, Gillespie County, Texas. Thank you.
You're already cutting me out like 5 seconds. I mean, howdy, folks. I'm Nick Krupa. My wife, Jennifer, over here. Her and I moved out here in 2017. Used to work for the Houston Police Department. If y'all have questions about that, this is just a 2-minute deal. I've got everything I've done as far as law enforcement on paper. It's been out there documented since I was here. I'm running for sheriff because I think after 15 years, a lot of people are wanting to change. I think I can bring a lot of positive change to the county. I'm open to any questions folks want to ask tonight. We'll be here all night, so hopefully y'all got them in the fishbowl. Thank you.
Okay, ready to start? Okay. And remember, if it does not pertain to the job of the Gillespie County Sheriff, we will read the question and say it does not pertain, and we'll throw it out, okay? First question, Buddy, and all of you. Do you or will you have an internal affairs department, and what benefits do you see with such a unit? Go.
Currently at the Sheriff's Office, we do have an internal affairs unit. It is comprised of the Chief Deputy, the Patrol Lieutenant, and the Jail Lieutenant. So that's the people that we utilize now whenever a complaint or something comes up. They're the ones that will investigate it and further decide what may or may not happen to the individual based on the severity of the offense, or if there is an offense. But our internal affairs division, if you want to call it that, since we're a small unit and we're a small county, I do not see the need to have specialized people that's all they do is internal affairs. We do it internally, in-house, with the officers that we currently have in those positions.
Okie dokie. So one of the things that I'm looking at, if I'm given the opportunity to become sheriff, I would like to see that this agency becomes accredited, which will create a policy system that we can follow that would protect not only the officers, but would also, with training and proper policy, would also protect the citizens of Gillespie County. So for me to create something that will protect us on both sides of the fence to be fair and equal, it may not necessarily mean that we'd have an internal affairs division, but we would definitely have a way to communicate with people outside of this. I was actually involved in an officer-involved shooting, and I do believe that the Texas Rangers did an excellent job in supporting what I went through. Thank you.
Before you answer that, did you have a rebuttal for his, a 30-second rebuttal for anything he said? Okay, did you have a rebuttal for what his question was or what his answer was? No, Buddy. Okay, so go ahead. You have 30 seconds to ask Buddy a question regarding his answer. No? Okay. You get it at the end. So what we do, when Buddy answers, then Chris will have 30 seconds to rebut his or question his answer. Then he'll have 30 seconds to respond. Okay? And then he'll have 2 minutes to give his answer, and you guys can rebuttal his. So we could debate back and forth if you want. Okay? So did either of you have a question for or a statement against Buddy's answer? Okay, then go ahead and get your 2 minutes to answer your question.
No, I got it.
Okay.
I actually have experience in that. You got to understand, with a county this size, no, we're never going to be able to fund a full-time internal affairs division. Thankfully, we don't need it. But where I came from, my last job was working officer-involved shootings, criminal cases on police officers, and things like that. So I have experience in handling those. Like I said, the department itself is small enough to where you wouldn't have to do it, but we do have to have people that are capable of it, because this is part of the transparency thing. If Citizen A comes into the sheriff's office and has a complaint, well, if that complaint is not actively investigated, and they're not always something, people will come into a police office, and these gentlemen will agree, with a head full of steam about a whole bunch of things that happened. Well, we're in a world now where everything's recorded on a 4K camera. So that's part of it as well, is what you have to do to keep your officers safe and safeguarded, is when those citizens come in there with those outlandish claims, squash it, because you can't put an officer through that. Now, when an officer messes up, you've got to have a discipline policy in place for those.
No, all I would like to say is that our internal affairs division, if you want to call it that, are the people that we have in charge in interviewing and the officers and listening to the complaints from the citizens when they actually show up and put it in writing as required by law to put it in writing. We do adequately investigate them to the fullest extent. If there are any type of violations of our policies or any procedures within the sheriff's office, then it is dealt with accordingly through our chain of command and the penalties that go along with that.
Excuse me, can you come down from the stairs, please? Thank you. We have some chairs up front if anybody wants to sit in it. This one's going to Chris first. He'll have 2 minutes. Then if you guys want to, have a rebuttal, then you have 30 seconds each to do that, and he'll have 30 seconds to respond. Okay? Next question. What is the supremacy law, and do you support, and are you in agreement? The supremacy law.
Okay, I want to be first to tell you that maybe I understand it as something differently. I'm not real sure. So in order for me to support it, I have to be honest with you, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know that the answer is this. I'm not going to try to make it up. So right now, based on that question of supremacy law, I want to make sure I know that answer. I know what it is and do some time to look into it before I give you an answer. Thank you.
Either one of you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, it won't take 2 minutes. I don't know what that is either. Whoever asked that question, if you want to come up to me afterwards and explain it a little bit better, I'll be happy to look it up and try to find you an answer, but I can't speak intelligently on what the supremacy law is.
Okay, buddy, you have 2 minutes for the question.
Okay, well, I'm going to be in the boat with the rest of the gentlemen here. I'd be more than happy for whoever had that question to meet with you after this event so you could adequately explain it to me And we'll see if we can find you an answer, because as you well know, we don't know all of the answers. The penal code, the code of criminal procedures are about this thick right now. So we'll be more than happy to look it up for you. So whoever that is, please get with me if you want to after the event. I'll be more than happy to get you an answer.
Thank you. Okay, next question. It's going to go to Nick first. What are special assignments and why are they listed as calls for service? You have 2 minutes, Nick.
I don't know the answer to that. That's going to be something the sheriff's going to have to answer. That's something that's posted weekly. It listed as calls for service. What we have are the one that was posted today. Half of the calls that our deputies are getting are special assignments, and I worked here for 6 years in the prosecutor's office, and I do not know what that means.
All right. The special assignments that are listed on our weekly reports are the activities that your deputies are doing throughout the county. A special assignment is a stop at this business, but this one's got a really nice gate on it, so they won't come here. Throughout the day, officers make periodic stops at convenience stores, storage buildings, different areas within the county, and specifically check them, especially at night, shake the doors on them, find out if anything is open. If a door has been unlocked or something like that, we'll contact the landowner. We usually hang a little card on the door that says, hey, your door was open. If we can get a hold of them real quick, we'll have dispatch contact them and get a key holder en route. So those are special assignments to give us a number of what the officers are actually doing all day long, in addition to the calls for service that they get for speeders and traffic stops and things of that sort. So that is what a special assignment is, and it's listed as information on our sheet to give you an idea of what our officers are actually doing on your behalf.
He answered it correctly.
Next question will go back to Buddy. If mandates return to Texas, will you stand against them and protect our citizens or give in to the illegal mandates? Is that something that you guys are okay with answering?
I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think I believe what either a mandate or, more importantly, what they're probably referring to is the executive orders that were issued here not too long ago during the COVID-19 incident. An executive order is a directive issued by a governor of the state. And when the governor issues that, it regulates state government and certain aspects of citizens' life. I just want you to know that on the day-to-day basis, with the executive orders that were issued, I used my discretion here in the county as your sheriff to not mandate that any of my officers had to wear a mask, nor were any of my officers required to issue any kind of citations for that. So, thank you. I believe, and I know we all lived through it, and I'm going to tell you right now that I believe that, I'm just saying this, I don't believe we will ever see those again. But the executive orders are not always in the best interest of all parties and at all times. They should merely be suggestions to whatever you would like to do.
You got it. One of the things I'm going to say is I don't think our economy or our people can endure another type of situation like that in any form. The biggest thing for me is I'm going to say this, if I would have been sheriff at the same time, I would not have mandated the deputies to wear masks. I would have made sure that their discretion and here's the deal for me, in my years of law enforcement, the most powerful tool I have as an individual that wears a badge, carries a gun, is my discretion. And at my discretion is always going to be the discretion of what's right for the people. I don't think that when we look at the mandates that came from up top and worked their way down, we have to look at who is it affecting. It may have been okay and worked in certain places, but it didn't work really well for Gillespie County, because I rolled the streets in Fredericksburg and I looked at those empty stores and those empty businesses, and I could see the change that the community felt in that time frame. So for me, I would definitely stand by. We're going to stand by what's best for the people and use our discretion. And I would use my discretion if I was the current sheriff at the time that came down again.
All three of us are going to be in complete congruence on that. Your sheriff's office, that's why we live here, because we're not going to be in the business of violating your constitutional rights and things like that. And I'm not going to come to Donna and tell her, if your business wants to be open, people have to wear a mask and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's anything that any three of your sheriff's candidates should have any concerns about whatsoever.
Okay, this is supposed to be a debate, and you guys aren't arguing. Dang it. Okay, next question. And see, I lost count. Buddy answered that first, so now it's Chris's turn. What problems do you currently see in the department, and how would you fix or address them?
Okay, just based on my observations, and I did work here for 24 years for the city of Fredericksburg, and I interacted with them. And I'm going to say the number one thing that I see as a problem is the lack of training. And I think that when I talk about getting an accredited agency, the state of Texas almost made it mandatory that all agencies be accredited, where they develop a training policy, they develop a system of each officer goes through training, which to me, when you train your officers at their very best and they receive the very best training, we can then prevent liability that costs taxpayers lots and lots of money. Because all it takes is one bad decision, one lawsuit to take millions of dollars out of the pockets of you as citizens. And to me, the best way to fight that is to make sure that every deputy from top to bottom, including me as a sheriff, are the most versed in the laws of this land, the laws of the state, and the ordinances that are currently in place in the county of Gillespie. We have to be the best that we can be.
Thank you. Either one of you have a rebuttal to that? You'll get to answer it. But do you want to did you want to fight him on it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you have 30
about that,
seconds.
huh?
You have 30 seconds
I have
to
30
ask his question.
All right, here, I want to let you know I have 30 seconds to tell you that in Gillespie County, we have given our officers and corrections officers some of the best training in the world. We have budgeted $30,000. It's budgeted every year for advanced training throughout the sheriff's office with all kind of different things: alert, criminal investigation, homicides. They go to blood splatter school. They've been to all kind of schools. I want you to know that you have a very well-versed, very well-trained sheriff's office here. So any discrepancies that anybody is seeing from the outside on our sheriff's office, please come and see me so I can give you a detailed list of where all they've been and how much money we're spending on them to keep you having the very best officers here.
Absolutely. When I was looking at the budget for $30,000, you divide that by 55 to 60 employees, you do the math, and you tell me if that's enough money to give sufficient training to 55 plus individuals that are currently employed by the Sheriff's Department. My answer is no.
No, I just want to let you know that they don't go to training every year. They've got specialized training that they go to. We have some mandated training that we have to do every year. So, and there's actually 62 employees there at the sheriff's office, but not all of them are required to have some of this extensive training.
Okay, yes, training is paramount. What they'll tell you on the tactical side is that you don't rise to the occasion, you revert to your level of training. What I've experienced, that bleeds over into every single other aspect of law enforcement, from homicide investigations down to assault, family violence, car wrecks, everything in between. My opponents have both admitted that we all believe training is probably the most important issue on this. What I would have to offer you is that through an open records request, I've got the TCOL training records for your 3 candidates. I've posted mine online since the beginning. Training has always been something for me. I'm lacking in tenure, but I am not lacking in training and experience. Right now, I have 5,508 total training hours that I've accumulated up to this morning. One opponent has 3,293 and the other one has 3,928. They've been at it 10 and 20 years longer than me. The deal with training is it doesn't always have to cost money, because when deputies are coming to work, you can do things like building clearing. We could go reach out to Tilson or Lennox or any of the home builders and say, hey, I need to get my guys trained on moving through rooms. You could do the same thing almost anywhere. There's a million different things you could do that don't cost money. But as far as training goes, we do have to fund it. Sorry. We do have to fund, or excuse me, a lot more money for it, because it is that important.
We do so much more. And as far as posting the amount of hours that I've occurred or anybody else has occurred there, if you want to know what they are, just come on by and see me. I'll be more than happy to pull my TCOL records. But I want you to know that those are important things, but those are mandated. Those are mandated things, hours that we're having to have. So I just want to let you know that we do a lot of other specialized training, and unfortunately, some of them don't know exactly what we do.
TCOL only mandates 40 hours a year, buddy. I'm sorry? Oh, TCOL only mandates 40. That's the bare minimum. That we can always go out there and get our people more. It can happen. Some of it's free. You just got to get there, folks.
Okay, so one of the things I want to make you understand from my perspective when it comes to training, when alert came along, which is what we trained for, active shooter response back in 2001 and 2002, what I learned is we were learning as law enforcement, but we were not prepping our teachers and the people, the citizens, on how to act in that. So in 2005, I started a business that allowed me to train civilians and teachers on how to respond to what we do. Because let me tell you right now, the active shooter situation is probably the most scariest thing that you're going to be in. So when we talk about training, I created a training from the ground up based on Gillespie County, Fredericksburg, Texas, and the schools in Harper and all that, because that's important to me.
Yeah, I've attended the training that Chris put on and did for years when I worked out here. The problem that we're going to have is not accredited. He spoke about accreditation. It's not accredited training. Alert is the only school per the law that's going to be what officers have to take.
Thank you. Okay, next question. I'm sorry this isn't going real smooth. I've never done this before, obviously. So here goes. Does God play a role in your decision-making process? If so, how? What do you guys think that this should be a question to be asked? Okay. I'm sorry, I've lost count. Chris, go ahead.
Undoubtedly, without a doubt, the answer is yes to that. Folks, I wake up every morning and I thank God that I get to come home to my family. I have a beautiful wife and 3 sons that live here. I have an older son and a daughter. I have 8 beautiful grandchildren. I know I look kind of young and all, but the reality is that without God, I'm going to tell you right now, God put me in Gillespie County, Fredericksburg, Texas that day, and I was blessed to work with different people throughout the county in Harper and Stonewall and Doss and be a part of that. I cannot look at you in the face and not say that some God put me here and not believe in them, because of the camaraderie, the friendships, and the fact that I get to know so many people because of the blessing that I have. I got to call it a job, but they always say if you go to work happy and have faith in it, it's like you're not going to work at all. And I'm going to tell you that God has been paramount for me moving to Gillespie County, Fredericksburg, Texas, and Harper, Texas, and Stonewall, Texas, because I've been a part of all the above. Thank you.
those of y'all that know me personally, we can discuss that. My faith is my stuff, and I'm pretty private with that, and I don't want anyone to hold it against me. I just not real comfortable talking about that, but I believe what Chris was saying is that, you know, you always want to do the right thing, but as far as the faith stuff, folks, I'm here to talk about police work. I'm here to talk about why we need people patrolling our streets, all those kind of things. I can speak intelligently on that, obviously not well, but I'll be happy to talk about that with y'all if y'all have those kind of concerns. But for me personally, my faith is my business.
Okay, my answer will be to this, that yes, God is paramount. And I want you to know that in the law enforcement profession, you have to realize that if you're not right with God, that at any time in your career, your life could end. So when you're charging into a house or you're going in after somebody, you have to know that you need to get in there and do what you need to do, knowing and being comforted with the fact that you might die. That's it.
Okay, next question. Oh, this is a long one. What's the current policy of the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office when it comes to, I can't read that word. Help me out here, buddy. Police? Thank you. Okay. What is their current policy of the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office when it comes to parole violators? And is it my understanding also it's not accepting individuals who have open warrants with Texas Board of
Probably blue ones.
Okay, you know Nick, this is your question. You want to read it? Okay. Sorry.
Well, as of right now, your sheriff's office is refusing parole violators to be booked in. So what happens is you go to prison, you get let out for something close to good behavior, you come to our community and reoffend, and you don't have to worry about going to jail because for whatever reason, the sheriff's office is not booking parole violators in. There's no reason for that. I don't have the answer as far as what the current policy is or what the reasoning may be behind them not doing that, but one of my other assignments, I worked on a parole violator squad. That's all we did is run those warrants. So it's important because those people went to prison. Yes, they're out technically, but they're still wards of the state. They're just allowed to live out here. So when they go out, they commit another crime, which then in turn violates their paroles, which issues what they call blue warrant, because it used to be on blue paper, okay? Warrant goes out, remanding them back to the custody of the sheriff's office because the sheriff is a custodian of the county, and TDC will come pick them up. If our office is not doing that, well, why are these people out here still rolling around?
Absolutely. The one thing I'm going to say is I do agree with what he said, but I'm taking a step further. If we built a 96-bed facility, why aren't we using it?
I'm just going to rebut real quickly. Yes, we are using it. I will tell you that. That's for sure. Okay. On behalf of the sheriff's office, what we currently do, if we have a person that has a blue warrant, and they're a non-violent, non-technical, because a lot of times they just won't go report for whatever reason it may be. If we pick them up on a current violation, they have a current violation, we incarcerate them on the charges that we have for them, and we keep them in our care, custody, and control until that case is either dismissed or taken care of. But as y'all well know, a 96 bed will only hold so many. And if you ever dealt with parole, which I have for over 15 years running the jail, we have to manage the amount of people that are actually incarcerated in there, depending on the violations that they have actually occurred. When they're in our jail and your jail, they're on your dime. These are people that have violated state law. These are people that have been to the penitentiary, and these are people that the parole division decides that they need a little jail therapy, so they issue a blue warrant for them. And I have had some of them in our care, custody, and control for over 60-something days on your dime. And you know what they do when they finally come to the end and they have a little hearing on them? They turn them right back loose in our community. So I do it as a manager's position and a manager thing to save you money to keep those beds open for the ones that actually deserve to be in there. Because if they're out on a technical violation, which means they did not show up and pay their parole officer or do their little test or whatever they had to do, they issue a deal on them. I had a meeting with the parole board the other day. They were setting up in the top of the jail there, trying to encourage me to get on that program. That would unfortunately cost us a tremendous amount of money and clog up our jail system right now because we manage it quite well.
The way I look at it is this, and he said it, that would be one thing that if I became sheriff, I'm going to learn as to why they're not coming to get them right away, or can we drive them up there and put them back where they belong, hand them to the people that issued the warrant. The other thing for me when I look at what we're doing as far as that goes, if that individual has violated his parole, which tells me pretty much he's not going to follow the rules, I'd much rather have him in jail for 6 months longer and keep him under control.
I will let you know that all the violent ones are kept. They were kept for a long, long time. As I said, the technical ones are not. Technical violation.
What I would argue is they're not issued for technical reasons, folks. They go to prison, they get out on parole, they commit another crime, and what we might be considering technical violations are dirty UAs, like a urine analysis, which means they're out there using drugs again out here. I understand everything costs money, but what would you, I'm okay with spending it. Taxes are high enough here. We'll make it happen. You can't just let them run around. We have to manage it. We can't just have them not allowed into our jail just to save a couple nickels. Folks, if we want to make an omelet, we got to break some eggs. It's going to cost some money. If I was a sheriff and I had to come explain to you why our jail budget was running a little high, I don't see anyone in this room that's going to be really upset saying, oh, sorry. Well, I don't think this room's going to be upset with saying, yeah, we did it because we kept offender X here for 60, 90 days till the state came and picked them up again.
Yes, as I said, when they get finished with them and they've gotten their jail therapy here in our jail, when they come in and see them and they have their hearings and everything else, they don't take them back to prison. They immediately turn them loose right back here in our community. And they're put back on paper again, and they're told to go back and see their probationer, and they're told their officer, and they're told to do everything that they're supposed to do. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of people that just don't learn, and so they repeat offend, and they repeat offend. As a matter of fact, we don't have very many here in this community. There's not that many that are out running around that have warrants on them.
No, you go right ahead.
Well, I think I've pretty well explained the fact of how we're doing it and what we're doing. If we have them on another charge, we'll take them, we'll hook them up, we'll put them in there. We contact the parole, we give them 10 days to come have their hearings, to do something with them, to put pressure on them, to hurry up and come and get them out, either do something with them, and a lot of times they don't. And that's just a breakdown. And I will tell you that a big problem was the COVID incident. It handed a lot of problems because a lot of those agencies didn't even see their probationers while they were out on parole. So that's why the system's got what it's got right now, a backlog of them.
Do you need me to?
So one of the things that, and I talked to many people about this, and I'm going to jump on when he's talking about a urinalysis test and they come up dirty and they're positive, that tells me they purchased drugs illegally and they're now in violation of that policy. One of the things that I see, and as a community member in the community, and I believe a leader from what I've done working with youth for 20-something years, is what are we doing besides just incarceration? Is there something that we can offer them that may get them off of that track? Or are we just going to sit there and continue that cycle? So if given the opportunity to be your sheriff, I'm going to look at both sides of that coin.
I can't stress it enough, and the sheriff says there's not that many of them. My question would be, if there's not that many of them, why are we worried about the cost? It's one or the other. These people need to go back. That's why they got their parole violated. You don't end up in prison for low-level drug offenses. That is a lifelong career goal for a criminal. So if the state decides to let them out, they come out here. My personal opinion is they reoffend. I'm going to keep them in there as long as I can. I know it's not free, but we got to do it.
Well, I will tell you, if you're going to do something like that, then we might as well get prepared to add another 48 beds onto that jail, or maybe another 200. If you go look in Kerr County over there, look at the size of their facility, and I guarantee you, if we're going to hold state prisoners on parole violations in our jail, I would really like for the state of Texas to be paying for that, but we tried during this legislative session, and we're able to work on a bill that if we have a person that's paper ready, that's been convicted and ready to be sent to the penitentiary, if we hold them for over 45 days, the state of Texas will start paying us for them.
You got more? Go ahead.
If the answer is there's not that many of them, then why would we have to build 48 more beds? What the issue is here, we got people that need to be in jail, put them in jail. I understand, lock them up, but we can't sit here and say, oh, we'd have to fill up a whole nother wing of the jail, and in the same breath say, well, there's just not that many of them. It's one or the other.
You got to realize that with 1.3 million annual visitors coming here to Gillespie County, we run across a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of them here, and I can guarantee you a 300-bed jail would probably not hold all of the ones. If we wanted to incarcerate everybody that comes through Gillespie County that is only possessing a blue warrant, and we run them for something.
One of the most important things that we have is our U.S. Constitution. And the Second Amendment guidelines that. The Fourth Amendment tells us who gets to come and who does what. Without probable cause, they can't do it. But the most important one for me in this situation is the Fifth Amendment, due process. Was due process activated at the point that they asked these individuals to come to the office to turn in their property? Due process is one of the most fundamental things that guides us throughout the entire Constitution, all the way to the 14th Amendment and right back down to the First Amendment. We are entitled to due process as U.S. citizens of this country. And if we're not given that, we open the door to all kinds of other things that could walk and creep into our society.
I've said before, like I just don't understand how that mistake was made in the first place. What we did is we circumvented a Gillespie County Citizen Americans' rights that day. It's unfortunate that it happened. This is something that's been brought up a lot. I don't understand how it happened. All I can assure you is that we're not going to take part in those kind of things. That there's a reason why the feds are the feds and the state's the state and we're the county. So that's the most I can do to assure you that those kind of mistakes won't ever happen again.
Yes, ma'am. One of the things I'm going to remind you, I know I'm talking to the choir, but we have legislators. And under the 9th and 10th Amendment, we can create things that protect citizens here in the United States. We don't have to just justify what the United States says. We are given the ability as a state to ask our state legislators to produce laws that protect us here in the state of Texas.
Ready, Chris. I have heard more than one of you say that you would be a constitutional sheriff. What do you mean by that, and who, if anyone, is your role model for a constitutional sheriff?
Okay, so if you don't know who Mac is, then that's the answer. But the reality of it is, to be a constitutional sheriff is to do what I just said, to know our Constitution, to abide by our Constitution, protect the rights of the citizen from the first all the way up to the very last one, including our Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Those things, the Second Amendment, as far as the right to bear arms, has been fought all over in legal courts and in different situations in case law. And honestly, I don't think we have a real answer yet, but it goes case by case. And I think as long as we understand it, we can make these rules by going to our legislators, by looking at them and saying, this is what we expect as citizens. We have to protect our rights. No matter what we say, to be a constitutional sheriff, I have to believe in the protection of you, the right to bear arms.
I think everyone here understands that all three of us are going to do everything we're not going to allow your constitutional right. I shouldn't say we're not going to allow your constitutional rights to be taken away from you. That's what it means to be a constitutional sheriff. If you look a little bit into the Constitutional Sheriff's Association, some of those guys got some stuff, and a lot of it gets involved in a lot of things that really don't have much to do with local law enforcement. I don't foresee anyone on this panel up here ever allowing those kind of things to happen to you.
My answer.
Number 2, do you have a role model? Okay. A role model of a constitutional sheriff now? Okay. Then you're up.
All right. I just want to let you know that I took an oath of office, that I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and to defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. And that is what I have always done, and that's what I will always continue to do, to the very best of my ability.
Do you have a role model?
If you really want to think about, does it have to be a sheriff? Well, the history of the sheriff goes way, 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 way back. So I would imagine that it would probably be some of the actual framers of our Constitution way back then. And I don't know if I have not done my research to actually pick one of them out, but I'm sure there's someone here in the crowd that could actually pick out one of them, and might have been Thomas Jefferson, might have been George Washington.
Thank you. Any comments to each other? You want to go ahead?
Folks, the only thing I would offer is that we wouldn't have to answer this question like that had the last question we got been addressed properly when those guys came to town in the first place. That's the problem with this, is that's what's got folks fired up about it, because you had worries. I understand if it's been addressed now, but the reason we have those worries is because all this talk about being a constitutional sheriff and everything else, well, we have clear-cut evidence that that's not what happened when they came through town.
Well, as we all know, we're not perfect. There's not anyone that's perfect in this room. None. The only one that was ever perfect was crucified. Thank you.
And I'm going to go back to his point of the Constitution when it was written. I mean, our founding forefathers never had a clue as to what we are seeing currently today. But they put amendments in our Constitution that said, we don't know what's coming, but here are constitutional amendments that you, the people, elect the people to change the things, and it has to be for the people. In the beginning, the power went to the individual states, and we realized that was a mistake. Our founding forefathers knew that was a mistake, and they changed it.
This one goes to Nick first. What will you do in your jurisdiction Sorry. Okay, buddy, since you're standing next to me, you get to read it.
And whoever wrote it, correct me if I'm wrong, but your handwriting looks a little bit like mine. What will you do in your jurisdiction when airlines or buses probably sent by the feds filled with illegal aliens arrive in our area?
Oh, I'm not answering that. Uh, uh, That's going to be, hey, I'm hanging out, folks. Come, whoever wrote that, please clarify that. I got the same answer for that when I got asked about what I'm going to do when the UN runs through town. I told him, I said, well, I'll sure write something up as soon as I see a baby blue tank rolling west towards Harbor, folks, but I have no idea what to do with that. We just wasted 23 seconds of this. We can go ahead.
Oh, well, yes, I'm going to do just like all the other counties do. They're going to send them back to wherever they came from. They've already got them loaded in a bus. Who thinks they're ever going to bring them here? Does anybody in this community have the bed and breakfasts that you would want to utilize and put somebody in there like that? We're going to do what we actually been doing around here. When we catch somebody that's illegal here, we actually hold on to them. We prosecute the guy that's hauling them. We hold on to them. We call Homeland Security. They come out of San Antonio within 2 to 3 hours max, and they pick them all up and they deal with them.
Yes, ma'am. In the words of Abbott Costello, I'm going to be yelling, Abbott! We need the governor to come make sure he helps and assists that, which he's proven that he will do just that.
Next question. Is everybody having a good time? I heard a no, I'm sorry. Okay, next question, and this one's going to go to Buddy. First, what are your thoughts about the issues we may encounter with all the apartments and new homes? Water, traffic, crime, etc.
Yeah, let me see that. What are my thoughts? Well, I'll tell you what, I moved here 32 years ago, and I never thought, there's a bunch of y'all that have been here since day one. I never thought that our county would explode in the way that it has here. So really, as the sheriff, there's not too much I can do about the water. We are actively doing whatever we can in regards to the traffic problems, congestion, mostly the speeders and some of the accidents that happen here. And the crime that comes with them is it just a product of growth within an area, depending on where they come from. But I will tell you, the majority of the people that come here, if they're going to come here and rent an apartment or move here, they're probably going to have quite a bit of revenue or either a pretty good job to afford it. So our concern is we will address the ones that we can address in that issue.
Either one of you want to respond?
Okay, so back in 1998, when I was on patrol, I got a phone call from an officer that lived here and worked here in Fredericksburg. And he said, hey, we're looking for a few good men. Would you be interested in coming to Fredericksburg? And I said, where's Fredericksburg? And he said, man, I don't get that very often. So what I had to understand at that point in time, that Fredericksburg was definitely on its way up. It should not be a shock to us, because in 1998, when I was officially hired in 1999, the growth was happening. So if we missed it as a society, as a group of people, what we have to understand is the Highway 290 Alliance, they spoke up and said, hey, we want the speed to slow down here on 290. That's what we need you, the people, to speak up and let us know, not just as a sheriff role, but as a leadership role, to communicate with our commissioners and with us, and how we can improve and make things safer for you, the citizens who do reside here in this community. One of the things is I have 3 sons here that are living on family land that's over 100 years into the family. And my goal is to make sure that my sons get to raise their families on that land.
Well, I'm definitely with the sheriff, and I don't know what to tell you about the water. That's for the Soil and Conservation District. As far as the more people coming in, eventually we need to expand the department or this office as best we can. That's going to be working with the Commissioner's Court, because we get new spots approved and things like that. More people that come in, we're going to need more coverage. That's part of my big deal, is getting coverage for those of us that live outside the city limits, out there in the county. So that's something that needs to be addressed long term, because there's new houses popping up everywhere. A lot of people that own those big ranches, they've sold them up. And we've got one like the Maverick and thing like that south of 783. That's going to be 300 homes. You got to think about that. So what are we doing today to plan for all that when people start moving in there?
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that currently, and most importantly, with the assistance of the Commissioner's Court this year, and with the conjunction and the infusion of some Senate Bill 22 money, we were actually able to raise some of the salaries here. So we are actually a more competitive area. And currently, we're almost full. I think we're one short right now on the patrol side. But when we're totally full, we will actually have one sergeant and 5 deputies patrolling the county 12 hours a day. The next 12-hour shift, there'll be another sergeant, 5 more coming on. So we have increased, ever since I have been here, since 2009, increasing the number of officers here to directly respond to the calls for service and the call volume that is being incurred, because a few years ago, we were way behind and the response time was way down. So I saw the need, approached the court, and we added some extra officers. And I want to tell you right now, we're actually able to hire them and get them to move to this county.
Okay, real quick rebuttal. Going back to the water, how many of y'all experienced a drought? Just checking, who live in this county? I was working in South Texas, just outside of Flores. I worked with the Wilson County Sheriff's Department, and we went through such a drought that the wells went dry. And there was one man watering his pasture. And if the old statement of they brought pitchforks and knives and all that, I rolled up on just that situation because they felt they had no water because he was using it to irrigate his property. So what I want you to understand is don't forget that that could be a potential problem for us with as many people who are drawing on the water into that. We may need to be prepared as law enforcement how we respond to those particular situations.
This one's for Chris. As sheriff, what is the proper way to handle Fed ATF who come into Gillespie County saying the residents who have the trigger? We've already answered this, so thank you.
I was like, I knew that answer.
How would you address a situation where an unauthorized individual in any department writes reports on deputies, and how would you handle this situation? Let me read it again. As a sheriff, how would you address a situation where an unauthorized individual in any department writes reports for deputies? How would you handle this situation?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to say is this, is that's one of the big reasons why I really want to get to a solid accredited policy. 2 things, whatever that officer says in his report, that is his statement. I cannot allow anyone to alter that, to put anything into that. If they do that, they are breaking the law and they would be charged accordingly, as far as I'm concerned with that. But I think that the most important thing is that we make sure that there is definitely a true policy in play before we, once we get this started as a sheriff. That person will be addressed responsibly as far as within the department, and as well as legal actions would be taken against them.
That's felony 3. There's no other way around that. Tampering with a government record, folks. I don't know where that question came from, but if that's what you're asking, whoever it was that asked, that it basically, if Chris turns in a report and I do something to doctor it before it gets submitted, I'm assuming that's where we're going with this. Well, that's tampering with a government document. You're going to jail. That's not even a policy issue. That's not a correctable issue. That's a felony.
Just to let you know that all of our deputies, they're all in charge of writing their reports. They take the case, they work it all up, they write the entire report, they submit it, and it is then transferred over to either the county attorney or the district attorney, depending on the severity of the offense. What happens if you have somebody that's actually writing a report for an officer that is not there, riding in the car with him, then they have no earthly idea what's happened. And when that officer gets on the stand, if he does not have his report and somebody else has written one for him, well, I can guarantee you it's going to look pretty bad, and he's going to get barbecued.
I think the question, maybe it's the way I read it, but I think it was, if this deputy was out doing something and he didn't want to write the report and he had somebody else write his report for him, is I think what it was. I don't think it was changing a report. I think it was having somebody else write it. So do either one of you want to change your answer?
I'm going to still stick with my answer. He's lying on a document that's going to be turned in, and I'm going to go out and he'd be charged. It's criminal.
Yeah, it's tomato, tomato. It's the same deal. You can't testify or swear to facts of things that you weren't there for.
I agree.
And I apologize if I didn't read it in the right context. So, next question. And this one goes to Nick first. What programs do you plan on adding to help someone getting off and staying off drugs and booze? What things and programs can you do to help the family members of drug addicts? And what type of training will you provide for officers and COs? Well, that was 3 questions, but kind of make it into one. Go ahead.
It's not the responsibility of your sheriff's office to rehabilitate drug users. So what your sheriff's office needs to do is go out there, have people putting together solid cases, and in turn get prosecuted. People get sent to jail or prison, and then let the courts, probation, and parole offices figure out how to rehabilitate them. As far as prevention, there's always the programs where you can go out there and try to take an invested part in the community and talk to people and things like that. Or if Citizen A comes to me and says, oh, Johnny over here's got a dope problem. Okay, well, then it's time to start getting in Johnny's life. And getting in Johnny's life, maybe putting him in jail. Or if you're catching him, he's not holding and things like that, talking to him. You can do what you can with that. But as far as the overall trying to fix those problems, we just got to get them. I mean, we got to get them out of here, folks. Can't do much with it until they get the help that they so desperately need.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna disagree with that on Nick. I've worked too many families working with youth for the 22 and a half years at the school that I did. I watched a lot of good local families lose their loved ones to addiction. And the problem is no offense to the courts, but they're slow. So what are we doing in between? I'm not saying that we have to be the guys to do the answer, but are we going to work with other agencies that could step up and say, look, this guy's been arrested 3 times for the same type of offense. As far as narcotics goes, what can you guys do? How can we work with other entities to bring a solution that's not going to lead to continual addiction?
That's still all done through the courts. Pretrial services, bond conditions. What you do is when you arrest somebody, you put them in jail, they get indicted, they get bond conditions, which is basically like being on probation. Probation monitors them, has to try and keep them clean. That's not the job of the sheriff's department.
All right, the answer for this is that currently in the Gillespie County Jail, some of them are incarcerated in there for 200, 300 and something days. So several years ago, shortly after we opened the jail, I brought in the Ministry Alliance from here in our community. I brought in alcohol awareness classes. I brought in drug awareness classes. So we start the process with them while they're actually incarcerated in our facility. And I will tell you that you're correct. This is not the job of the sheriff to rehabilitate all these people. There are other services that are out here in this community and across the state to help rehabilitate them. But I wanted to give them the very best opportunity to get started on the right track, because after about 2 or 3 weeks in our facility, their hair changes, their face changes, they realize what's going on. So they seek the spiritual part. They can go to classes for alcohol, and they can go to classes for drug awareness right here in our facility. So we're trying to give them a head start. We're trying to get them, when they get kicked out, I will say that a lot of times it's up to them and it's up to their families to mandate that, or send them to a facility somewhere. We actually have 2 facilities here in the county, a men's only and a ladies that, well, one's both, and a ladies only that already are providing those services here. They're in Kerrville, they're all over the state. They are very expensive to the families, and I will tell you that the drug problem that we have had here in our nation for eons and eons is deteriorated the fabric of our society. It's very bad. But we at the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office, I try to get them at least a foothold to maybe when they get out of there, they would make the right decision and want to go seek the help that they need.
Okay, next question. What time is it? Okay, got a little bit longer. This one goes to Buddy first. There feels as if there are a number of sexual assaults reported, but I rarely see arrests. Do you feel there is a lack of response to such assaults, and how would you deal with them?
No, there are a lot of offenses here for sexual assault. Not a whole bunch, but our officers, whenever our officers receive one of them, this is one that they will usually, the officers out in the field, will usually pass up to the Criminal Investigation Division to help facilitate and do all of the investigation, take them to Kerrville, and take care of them. But we do have quite a few of them. I was trying to see if we had an actual deal here. It's probably lumped in here to the rest of our offenses. We don't have that one actually broke out. But as far as seeing the result of them, I will tell you that in the criminal justice system, we catch them, the courts clean them, and when the courts do that and they do their process, unfortunately, we don't go follow up with the court and then publicize the offense or what they were charged with. We charge them, they get arrested, we charge them with it, and then they go on through the court system, which is another total separate entity from what we do in the law enforcement division. So we do have a few of them here in this community, but we actively pursue those, and charges are normally filed on those.
Unfortunately, based on my experience in working with youth, yes, it does happen a lot. Sexual assaults do take place in our community in a way too many number that we should be satisfied with or not look at. One of the things that I want you to understand that when it comes to servicing these victims, there has to be the utmost compassion for what they've just experienced. Now, I have worked with some investigators that I'm very heartbroken in the way they treated these individuals, the way they treated these victims, the way they talked to these victims, trying to cast doubt on their ability to say, this is what happened to me. So I think that training in sexual assaults need to be increased tenfold on how we treat these victims. I'm going to sit here as a male standing in front of you. I will never understand what a woman goes through. And for me to try to think that that would be possible is nuts. The other thing that we lack right now is female officers that are currently on the patrol shift or in the investigations. We have 0 that are on patrol. Right now, we don't have a demographic of the Hispanic population. So if a Hispanic is sexually assaulted, they're going to have to hire someone to come in and translate to make that happen. So I do think that we're underserving our sexual assault victims.
We're not underserving anybody that needs some help or anybody that has an offense that has occurred against them. We make all arrangements, free arrangements, to have any kind of translator that we may need to adequately get the information that we want from them. And I guarantee you that the sexual assault people are treated very well here by the sheriff's office. They're taken care of. There are all kind of other services that are provided here for them to help them with that terrible offense that has occurred to them. So we're taking care of them. And as far as the female officers go on that side, I guarantee you when they get over there to CAP, when they get over there for that interview, if it's a younger, to get over there, they have people that actually are specialized in those fields, and they're the ones that help us with those investigations.
Yes, sir. But what about the 3 to 4 hours before we can set up a CAP, or the 24 hours that they have to endure until we're able to set up a CAPS interview for them to actually speak to someone?
Unfortunately, we don't run CAP. So if it was my choice, I would like to have them there within 30 minutes, but we have had a few of them here, and usually they set up the interviews for us because they know the importance of it, and they actively do the best that they can on getting that person in there to be interviewed in that process. And I don't know of anybody that's had to wait 24 hours. I mean, that'd be That's uncalled of. They're usually taken care of very quickly.
And unfortunately, I cannot name names, but I can tell you people have waited 24 hours to get the help that they needed. But here's the deal. Why do we not have a system in place with a female that's on call that can be a part of that investigation to hold the hands of that young lady or woman that has experienced that? There's nothing, I'm going to tell you right now, I have a lot of rapport with young ladies, and I talk to a lot of them, but I still am not that person that should be standing next to them.
Yes. Help comes in all different forms and fashion, and the fact that it's not a female helping them or assisting them, I truly believe that they will be very open with the officers, and they were caring and compassionate with them. We do the very best that we can. We have had some openings here within our sheriff's office, and so we have actively looked for people to apply here, and unfortunately, we haven't had any females that have applied here. We have had some female deputies, and during my tenure in the last 15 years, we have had some of them, but they didn't stay here. They moved off to bigger and better things and went to different areas of the state. So it isn't from a lack of trying. But at first, they've got to actually apply in order to be hired here at the sheriff's office.
So both the gentlemen off to the right have a point. Yes, a female, I spoke about this the other day, a female in CID would be a tremendous asset. What Mr. Ayala is talking about is that we just can't relate on all things. What I can offer you is I deal with these day in and day out in my roles in the county attorney's office, because where do all juvenile sex assaults go? To the county attorney's office. I've been doing this since 2017, dealing with these kids that have terrible things happen to them. I think there may be some confusion in the room, so, because I saw, does anybody know what they're talking about when they're talking about CAP? That's Kids Advocacy Place. Okay, what that is where you send a juvenile who was sexually assaulted to go speak to specific forensic counselors. None of us up here are qualified to do that. There's only so much an actual policeman will get out of a child at that. Those people that do those jobs, it's heartbreaking to watch, but they're the best at it. I don't know if that's where the confusion is, if it takes a while to get into that. Now, to get into CAP, yes, that can take some time. I don't know if what we're talking about is a SANE exam, sexual assault nurse exam, to look for DNA and all that stuff, if that was what the hang up was as far as the time. But we can work on all that. But I've had experience with that. And as far as them, what was the first part? I said I had it.
It says a number of sexual assaults are reported.
Yeah. So to address the concerns about how you deal with people, it's called empathy. What I was taught when I was a young man coming into the police world is that no matter who I'm talking to at that moment and at that time, that's the worst day of their life. It could be just a bad wreck off 290, or God forbid, I could be dealing with a kid that was sexually assaulted. That's the way that us in uniform can deal with that. With the investigators, you have to have specialized training for sex assault. There's no other way around it. I get hours and hours of it every year, and I still don't have enough. You can never have too much of that. That is one of the most difficult crimes to prosecute as well.
One thing I will say that if I'm given the opportunity to be the sheriff of Gillespie County, that will be priority for me to make sure that we have a team that can handle those situations with all the proper training to immediately address what our young ladies may experience, or even in some cases, our young men.
Okay, we're going to take a 15-minute break. Go get something to drink, stretch your legs, and then we'll come back. And the person that wrote the question it's one question to each candidate. Can I visit with them? Okay, everybody, let's get seated. We're going to start again. And I want to remind everybody, if you feel like you're too crowded in here and you want to watch it, we are streaming it live out on the patio on the big TV, okay? Okay, everybody, please have a seat so we can get started. Okay, prior to the break, I pulled a question and it was written to each one of the candidates. And there were little things about how long they've been and everything, but I think the gist of the question was, what are your qualifications for being sheriff? And we left off with Buddy, so this one will go to Chris first. So this question right here that somebody wrote in 3 parts, we're just going to condense it to each one. What are your qualifications for being sheriff?
Okay, first and most important for me as an individual and is the opportunity to let you know that I have a public servant's heart. And in my heart of hearts is the way I feel like the community should be treated. As a sheriff, I believe you have to have the expertise in law enforcement, which I have 31 years in that in law enforcement. I have the experience of street patrol. I'm currently a deputy in Kendall County at this time as we speak, so I do patrol the streets and currently assigned to the Comfort area in the school district system there. So to me, to have that background of expertise, having all the expertise is important, don't get me wrong, but how we treat people and how we interact with people and how we build a community as a sheriff, bringing the community together in every form and facet, being a part of the community, and the goal that I have, that is my passion, is the people. My passion has always been with youth for the most part of it, but when you work with youth, you work with their parents. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot build a relationship with parents any faster than when their children trust you with everything that you are. And I'm going to say this, when I moved to Fredericksburg, again, I'll tell you, I was going through a hard time. When I was assigned to work with those students throughout these years, I'm going to tell you, they made me believe that if I was going to talk the talk, I would have to walk the walk. And so to me, being a sheriff is someone, I would be the #1 law enforcement official in the county if given this opportunity. And I would take sure that I would use every law to my ability to protect the citizens of this community. But the most important is that I do believe in the people of Gillespie County. I can be the best sheriff all day long, but if I don't believe in the people, then I'm really just a guy that has a job. So that's why my heart's in it, and I'm going to continue to put into it if I'm elected your sheriff.
So I think my qualifications speak for themselves. Y'all got to look at what you're voting for up here. I want you to take an actual look at my track record as far as what I've done in my 20 years. I've done numerous different types of law enforcement work, and I've worked in all 3 sections of it. I've worked the streets, I've worked in the court systems now, and I've worked in corrections. I can bring a wealth of knowledge and a lot of training experience and knowledge, everything else to this department. I have the ability to look at individual operations we have here within our sheriff's office, and I have good ideas on how to fix them because I've worked patrol, I've worked investigations, I've worked the tactical side of things, I've worked the different things that we have that are put in place to keep y'all safe. That's the reason I'm running. I think some people are ready for a change. I believe my background and experience gives me a very good chance of pulling this off and doing a great job for you.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question. My qualifications go way back, over 43 years. I started off as a state game warden in the state of Texas. I worked around Eagle Lake. I took several kids hunting and fishing and exposed them to the outdoors. I am a sheriff of the people, elected by the people to serve the people, and that's what I do all the time, and that's what I've been doing. So my qualifications go way back. They're very deep. They're very deep in this community. There's probably not, the property has been cut up a lot, but I guarantee you I know every nook and cranny of this county. I know the people of this county. I know what the traditions of this county. I understand what the citizens of Gillespie County expect in their law enforcement officers and what needs to be done. And I have changed some of the things since I have been sheriff from 2009 to changed with the times, the crowding, everything else that's going on in here. I have done my best to bring you the very best in law enforcement services to this county at an affordable cost, because I tell you, they are very expensive. Currently, I manage budgets of the sheriff's office, which is the patrol side, which is $5.3 million. The jail operations, $3.1 million. The LEC operations, just $109,000. I got some seizure money there of 95. So I operate, manage, control, and operate over $8.6 million annually on your behalf. So I bring you the very best. I bring it to you at the very best cost. And I want to tell you that when an inmate gets put in our jail, unfortunately, sometimes they've got something wrong with them. And that's where a lot of the cost comes in. So the management, the upper management decisions that are made on your behalf, as a taxpayer, there's not very many people in this room that understand what the sheriff actually does and the authority that he actually has to get his job done in the best interest of y'all. So I want you to know, as your sheriff for the last 15 years, I believe we have been doing an excellent job. We are progressing and we are proactive, and we're not going to stop. Am I over my 10 minutes? Thank you.
If elected sheriff, how do you plan to train and work better with local volunteer fire department and city fire, EMS, and local PD?
That has been the biggest question, in my personal opinion, that I've been asked behind this, because when I came here, I've never seen such a disconnect between the sheriff's office and the local police department. What we don't have is hardly any level of cooperation whatsoever. And me as a former policeman, I find that abhorrent. I've seen a lot of cops tore up in a lot of different places, and that's how you get officers hurt, by these agencies that we live here not cooperating, not training together, not knowing the ins and outs of each other's operations. So when something goes wrong, everybody's on the exact same page to handle that situation. That's something that terrifies me. My wife works here at City Hall, and when I go through things and I see that our police department doesn't train with our sheriff's office, there's no reason for that. And I can speak firsthand because I put on training when I was here. The police department made it mandatory for myself and every officer to show up. When myself and my prosecutor put on the training, the sheriff's office had one person come. Everybody else just listened to the Crime Stopper stuff and left. I've been to Officer Ayala's force-on-force drills, and I know for a fact he's offered that up numerous times to the sheriff's office, and we've never had anyone there. I don't have answers as to why that doesn't happen. I can just assure you that if I'm sheriff, that's over day one. I think it's paramount that we have the cooperation between the police and the sheriff's office. And with the fire departments, they're also, for lack of a better term, fired up, because they also get lack of response out there. The fire departments aren't having the sheriff's office go out there when they get burn ban calls. When they're working wrecks, they need more help directing traffic. That's all stuff that could be fixed day one by everybody working together.
By all means. I do want to let you know that we work very closely with law enforcement agencies throughout this county. They're all housed in the law enforcement center out there where we're currently at. The highway patrolmen, the game wardens, TABC officers have a desk there, the Texas Rangers, the city of Fredericksburg patrolmen. Everybody is right there together, and everybody works together, and everybody trains together. If we're called upon to come and assist anyone in this community, the help is paramount, because we're small agencies. The police department will show up, the game wardens will show up, the highway patrol will show up. We use the incident command part. It's all set up through our local emergency management coordinator. We train with them. We practice for tornadoes, and how many trainings that we have gone to. So I'm kind of at a place here. I don't know who you've been talking to, but I would like for anyone, like he said, I'm going to offer it to you. If you think you need to go visit with somebody about how the local law enforcement works together here, you please come out there to the law enforcement center and you walk the halls and you ask anybody you want. I'll get you inside there and you can go ask anybody you want in that law enforcement center how well we work together. You can ask the firemen if you want to ask the firemen, find the volunteer firemen, ask them.
Okay, 30 seconds is up. Anybody want to have a rebuttal to that? Okay.
Folks, you don't have to go to the LEC to get that answer because there's somebody from every one of those organizations that we're talking about right here tonight. This community's small enough. When this is over, go talk to one of them. And I think you'll get the true story of what's going on with that.
Okay, next question. It's going to go to Buddy first. If elective sheriff, would you feel that the sheriff's salary of $126,000 per year is excessive?
No, I would not. And I'll tell you the reason why. My current salary is just that. It's been posted in the paper. This year, it went from 85-something thousand to $126,000. Something that I'm very proud of because not only did my salary raise, but every individual within the sheriff's office salary raised exponentially. And if you want a list of them, I guarantee you it's open records. You can go down to the courthouse and you can find out exactly how much your paid law enforcement officers make here in the county. So I'm very proud of that. That is a culmination of all the hard work that went into the legislative session as when I was president of the Sheriff's Association, working with the legislators down there, the senators and representatives, the lieutenant governor, the governor's office, in order to facilitate the passing of Senate Bill 22, which affected not just me, it affected 236 counties in this state where underpaid sheriffs, deputies, and jailers had been suffering and tormented for years and years with low pay. So I'm very proud of the fact that that's what the pay is, but if it was going to be written out exactly how it should have been put in there, if you wanted to put it, you could put that I make $85,000, and then you could take the rest of it off there and said that that money come from the state. But unfortunately, it was put in the paper that way, and I have no problem with that.
Thank you.
And here's what I'm going to say into what he's saying. I totally agree with the salary if you, the community, agrees that we're providing that service and that value of that service. If you look at me as a sheriff, if I'm elected and you say, hey, look, I'm not seeing this, we're not getting this, then I would have to question whether or not I'm earning my money. So for me, the answer for you right now is that I'm not the sheriff at this point, and I'm not going to say that that amount of money is not impressive and would not want to make me proud of who I am, but I promise you, the objective of me coming from the retail world is I want to give you quality service that you will in the end say that he has earned every penny of that salary.
Yes, I 100% feel that's an exorbitant amount of money for an elected official to make. There's no way around that. We can't stand up here and say that we're fiscal conservatives and everything like that and then expect to make $6 grand and change, or I'm sorry, 6 figures and change. You can talk to the people that I've been talking to for a while. I plan on cutting my salary back to the minimum, to the 80 that the sheriff's department paid for the longest time, because day one, as soon as I can get that money out of there, I can get us closer to somewhere in the training budget to what the Fredericksburg Police Department pays. That's how important this is to me. I'm not running to make money. I worked very hard for a real long time to secure myself financially, and I'm in a unique position to be able to do that, but that's what I'm willing to do. Personally, yes. As a taxpayer, and when I joke about they think we got golden oil underneath every rock we own out here. If we've got electeds making 126, that's a bit much. But that's just, oh, I'm good.
The next question, and it is for Chris. Chris, your job experience related to supervisorial experience, jail budget, I think that says, and employee hiring. Got all three?
So a lot of y'all don't know, and there's 2 commercials out to me, but I worked for Walmart for about 5 years as a manager, assistant store director. where I was responsible for multiple employees. So I understand budgeting, I understand how to run a business, and being a sheriff, it is financial, it is a business. You have to be running it in a way that the people are getting the service that they need, and also at the same time you're running that. I'm going to say this, I may be just a deputy when I become a sheriff if you elect me, but I want to say that he was a game warden and he picked it up and he learned it. It takes time. There's going to be a learning curve in everything that you do. So I'm not here to say that I have that finesse to do right there to do that, but I have hired people and I have fired people. And I'm going to tell you right now, as a supervisor, terminating people was one of the hardest things I ever done as a professional. Can I do it? Will I do it if necessary? Absolutely. But if I don't look at this as a business because you guys are paying for something, you're expecting that.
Supervising, jail budget, and employee hiring.
As far as being a supervisor, the only way I know how to do it is lead by example. When you're elected sheriff's going to be out there being on call, actually making crime scenes, investigating scenes and things like that. I expect the rest of the pieces to fall in place after that. That seems like a simple enough fix, and I don't want it to sound too basic, but that's the way I've been led by good bosses in the past, because I've had bosses that would put you out there to go do things that they didn't know the first thing about, and it's hard to follow that person like a leader. When you've got someone that's got experience in different things and can go out there and show the younger guys how to work things and how to do things, I believe that'll play well here. The budgeting, I've gotten way over my skis on because I started combing through that the day after I started to do this, because I knew that would be a shortcoming of mine. And what I could tell you is I've been trying to comb through it. I started going to budget meetings where I work now in Kirk County. And I know I'm, like I said, over my skis, but I'm set to go to TAC training, Texas Association of Counties, for budgeting for electeds in May 14th, I believe. So I'm planning that far ahead with that. What was the hiring? So hiring can be a different thing in the police world. You've got to start with a background investigation, bring them in, do the interviews, do the rest of the stuff. Have I participated in that in the past? No. What I have done is basically interview people that were within police departments to come to the squads that we were on before. So I've been doing that since, I don't know, 2006, 2007, something like that. So I've got experience with those kind of things.
All right. Okay. On the answer, you got to realize that a lot of the experience comes from actually doing it. And I want y'all to know that as the sheriff, I have never asked one of my employees to do something that I wouldn't do. I am a very active sheriff. I'm up early in the morning. I'm running gun all day long. I handle calls and complaints that come in, the ones that get passed up to me for individual complaints. I take care of all of that. And I want you to know that I am a full-time sheriff. I work probably way too many hours than I should, but I guarantee you, as your sheriff, I believe that that's what you expect. That's what you put me in this position for. So all you have to do, if you need anything from your sheriff, is all you got to do is call me. All you got to do is show up. Hiring people is a very important deal. We have a team that utilizes the ability to get the very best employee. And unfortunately, yes, I have had to fire some of them. It's not anything that I'm proud of. It's something that has to happen. But if they're not doing their job and they're not performing to my expectations on your behalf, then I will terminate them. And I have done that in the past. So I want you to know that I am here 100% of the time. I'm a full-time elected official. And if you ever need anything from me, all you got to do is call or walk into that door over there. My door is always had been open. It's always going to be open for you. So I can guarantee you, all you got to do is say something and something will be done. But as we all know, humans are creatures of habit. Sometimes humans don't want to go talk to other humans because for some reason they think that because I wear a badge and a gun and I'm the sheriff of this county, that I am not a human being and that you can't come and talk to me. You're dead wrong.
Okay, the next question will go to Nick, but I'm going to read it, but I think we've already answered it, but if not, we will. We are continually hearing about how our town has changed from a quaint, quiet town to what it used to be, to a town that is experiencing more quote-unquote big city type crimes. We need a sheriff who is equipped to handle these crimes and protect the citizens of Gillespie County. Explain how your training and experience make you qualified to lead our sheriff's department amidst these issues. Did we answer that? Do we want to answer it again? Okay.
I've been up here all night harping about the experience, folks. That's what this is about. Having a sheriff who has real world experience in multiple different types of police and law enforcement functions. That is the most important thing, because with my experience, as I've said before, I can look at different problems and know how to solve them because I've been working those kind of cases and things. I do not want this to sound the wrong way, but being a school resource officer is a very, very noble pursuit. I love Chris to death, but we're not hiring a mentor. We're looking to elect a sheriff. I would like to think that as a citizen, I want a sheriff that's got as much experience as possible because he's going to be able to handle these issues.
Okay, 30 seconds.
I would challenge this young man right here to do a SRO in the high school for 1 year and see what he says after that. What you have to understand is when you look at the idea of what a mentor is, he just said that he leads by example. I've led, for example, for over 20,000. If you look at it, every school year, the seniors, the high school has 1,000 people in it. For 20 years, I've led by example, not just by mentor, but by example. And here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't know this, I have a sheet back there. You're welcome to look at what I've done. I'm not a bragger about what I've done. I'm very proud of it. My joy is this, is I was able to get young men and women for a grade to be productive in this community. Imagine what I can do with people who are getting paid by the hour as a mentor.
Our town has gone from a quiet, quaint town to a big city, crime type city now. So what are we going to do to protect the citizens of Gillespie County?
All you have to do is just look and visualize and read and be informed of exactly what's happening in your community. And I feel that we have done an excellent job in giving you all the information that you need to find out anything. We're listed on Facebook. The newspaper is very gracious and writes articles about us in the paper. Instagram, next door. There's all kind of knowledge out there. All you have to do is look for it or ask us, because I have worked in several different fields. And the law enforcement, the game warden one is one of them. I had advanced all the way up to a sergeant's position in that field and worked very diligently and supervised people in special operations. Katrina, I went all over the state. I've done all kind of things when it comes to really bad deals, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, everything else. So as far as the experience goes, just look at what has happened and occurred here in the last 15 years in your county. If I was not a proactive law enforcement and I was not a proactive sheriff, I guarantee you we'd still have a 15-bed jail and we would still be running around with 3 patrol cars in the county. And I tell you what, you would really be at a disadvantage. We have strived to make changes, to make things better. You have to continuously grow in order to keep in check with all of the things that are going on in your county. And we are very attuned to what's happening here in our county. We have been for a long time.
Here's what we have to consider. Fredericksburg still is amazing. Harper's an amazing. Stonewall, Doss, all of these cities in this county are just amazing places to be. And we have a lot of people that come and visit this. There's a reason why they come here. It's not because it's a horrible place. It's because it's a good place. And we have to accept, even with the good, there's a lot of bad. But here's the deal. We have to understand that when if I become sheriff, we have to be more involved with the community. I need to say this, rather than go check Instagram, rather than go check Facebook, on a certain day, I'm going to open my door at the LEC or wherever and say, come in, let's talk about what's going on. Let's see eye to eye. Let's look at face to face, accept each other as mature individuals of this county, and let's make the best decisions for this county. What we're seeing right now is we have a card where somebody wrote a very important question. But I want to be able to say, I not only asked that question, but I sat in a room with multiple people and we asked and we worked on a solution to that problem. One of the things that I encourage my students is to find a problem, but don't just come up to me with a problem, find a solution. And what they learned is sometimes the solution is not as easy as it seems.
Yes, I'd like to just say about the community involvement. If you've been in the community and you've been to some of the events that occur here, fish fries, kid events, you will always see a deputy there. It might be the car, it might be at a touch the truck type deal, might be at a car show. We are heavily involved in this community, especially with the young children. Our dog, our second dog we've got online, we are very involved in the community. So the exposure is there. And I don't understand the part where you are not understanding why we're not talking about what's going on in this county. The fact of the matter is we are. It happens daily.
Question? And this will go to Buddy first. It says, how would you handle knowing a deputy is stopping people out in the county without probable cause? Do you want me to reread it?
No.
Oh.
No. First of all, we do not stop anybody without probable cause. We use probable cause, either the radar unit went off, they're speeding, there is a temp tag on their car that they have run through the dispatch that doesn't come back, it's on a black truck, and it comes back to a white Mazda. We do not stop people without probable cause here in Gillespie County. So I don't know how we'd handle that. I would, if I did find out about people stopping someone without probable cause, which is what we have to have, then we would handle that through our administrative process for either disciplinary actions or whatever may need to happen.
And again, I'm going to go back to that ability to contact. It's obviously been questioned because it's a question. And so what we need to look at is what is our, right now, currently, what is the process? He mentioned get a hold of him, contact him. But when you have concerns, you should be instantly addressing those concerns with the current agency. Or if I'm elected sheriff, I expect to see you in my office first thing in the morning to address your concern. I'm going to say that one of the most important things that I would like to create if I become sheriff is a citizens academy for the sheriff's department, where the citizens get to come in, they get to stand in our shoes as deputies, they get to stand in our shoes as a sheriff, as a jailer, and all the different roles in between, so that they understand this is not an easy job. And I don't think I have to tell you that, but what I'm saying is sometimes when you stand and look from our point of view, it really opens the door for you as citizens. And that's the kind of citizen involvement that I'm looking forward to, is to have that experience. Thank you.
The question was, what would you do as a sheriff if someone's out there stopping cars illegally? Is that correct? I don't need 2 minutes for that. The guy's fired. Then we're going to get him indicted. That's where's all my constitutional people and all this stuff? Everybody's super fired up about guns and getting all that stuff. That's called the Fourth Amendment. There's your Constitution right there. If those kind of things are going on, then people are gone. That's not whether this is a hypothetical or a concern that someone expressed. My question would be, how does that happen in the first place? Because if we have adequate supervision and someone was out there doing that, why did the sergeant not catch it? Why did the sergeant not report it to the lieutenant and it be done with before it even came across my door?
And it's Chris's turn. What will you change to make sure the vast amount of cases that are currently being filed with the district attorney's office are not dismissed? We currently have many cases that are being filed and dismissed.
So the first thing I would have to do is we'd have to really dive into finding out. I mean, if I'm elected sheriff, that's going to be a priority, because I don't just take over something. I take over people's lives that have been arrested. I take over people's lives that are victims. And to make sure that we address those, we're going to have to sit down And we're going to have the proper people that can look at each one of these and say, these are cases that need to be addressed. And then the deeper part is I need to sit down with either the county attorney, district attorney, as a sheriff, and say, why are we not getting convictions? And if they say, Chris, this, and that, how do we solve that problem? And if they say training's part of it, then training will be taken and implemented. If they say they're doing this wrong, then we will do training again to fix that problem. When we talk about the idea of probable cause stops without probable cause, and we stop a car, that is poor training. They should know better than that. And so when you start off that way and you start off on the wrong foot, and that attorney finds out that's why cases are lost. So there's a process that we have to follow to make sure that our cases are tight, that they follow the Constitution, they follow the rights of the citizen, and if we do everything right, then we'll get more convictions. Versus if we do things wrong, then we don't have those convictions. So part of being in the training and the ideal, make sure we have plenty of training, is to avoid that at all costs.
What will you change to make sure that the vast amount of cases that are currently being filed with the district attorney office are not dismissed? We currently have many cases that are being filed and dismissed.
Just to back up a little bit with the illegal stop, that's not a training issue. That's illegal action. That's criminal action. Training doesn't fix that. As far as cases that go away in court, if you understand how cases work, deputy goes out, makes an arrest right now today. Person goes to jail, they get indicted, case goes to the district attorney's office. After that, someone has to backfill whatever's missing for that investigation, and that's just on a simple traffic stop. Prosecutors have to basically fish or cut bait with all the cases that come through their office. So when they get something that there's not much to be salvaged, they have to make a tough decision. Now, you can either resend it back to law enforcement to be reinvestigated, or you have to do what they call prosecutorial discretion and get rid of it. Now, if you want to know how I know that, because that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years. The job of the investigator is to backfill, is to basically Monday morning quarterback. It is to reevaluate every single case and arrest that comes through. So if we're getting dismissals on cases, that means there was not a proper on-scene investigation done. Those are things that could be addressed by training and stuff like that. But when something comes into our office and it's a flat illegal stop, that's not even a dismissal, that's a rejection. That's a whole different process.
Two minutes, okay. I'm sorry about that. I just want to let you know that there's been cases that are being dismissed. A lot of times they get dismissed at the upper level. I don't know about a bunch of cases that are not being sent back to our office. If they are being sent back to our office, then there is not any further investigation to be done, or there's not any other evidence that needs to be gleaned in order for the prosecution to occur. So I know if you're talking about some of them that are taken out because there's not sufficient evidence there, that they shouldn't be going forward anyway. And I do know that our officers have a lot of training in how to prepare their reports and to get the information, everything that's needed, the call logs, the videos, everything that is presented into the district attorney or the county attorney, either one of them, because they both do the same thing, that we do a great job at doing that. And I don't know what dismissal rate that they're talking about, because I have visited with the district attorney and the county attorney extensively, and I have not had any concerns from them about this.
This next question, it says it's to Buddy Mills, but let's turn it around so everybody is able to answer it. It says, why are your deputies making more stops in the city than the county? So we're going to reword it so everybody can answer it and say, I guess, what would you do as sheriff if your deputies are making more stops in the city than the county for them? And you can answer it how you'd like.
Well, you got to realize the city is in Gillespie County. Did anybody not realize that the city is in Gillespie County? So anywhere one of my officers sees a violation of the law, would it be better for him to wait till they run out of the city limits and then stop them? No, they're going to take care of business wherever they see it. So if you see a deputy that has someone stopped in the city, realize that that is Gillespie County, and they're probably giving them a ticket, or maybe there's something else wrong with their vehicle. I don't know about the sufficient number of those. I don't know where this complaint's coming from, because I have seen deputies stop cars here in town. It's Gillespie County, and we work the entire county.
Well, the one thing that's important for me is I worked in the city. We have a police department in the city that is also taking traffic stops. And he's correct, the city of Fredericksburg is in the county, and yes, but we also have Harper, we also have Doss, we also have Stonewall, and then we have an abundance of immediate people that live in those outer areas as well. And they deserve us running traffic in their rural areas and being seen in those rural areas, and that's extremely important. Now, you can look at the numbers if you go back over the past 6-7 months, look at the numbers of traffic stops that are taking place within the city. Not that it isn't important, because it is, but at the same time, a deputy for me, and that's it, when I worked in a county that was 1,380 square miles, my joy of being a deputy was as I could leave the city limits. And there was major highways I could do interdictions on. There was major back streets that I could look for kids doing things they're not supposed to be doing. I could look for criminal activity out in the county. And so my priority should be first out in the county, and maybe as I'm traversing back into the county, if I see an offense, and then at that point act on it.
Yes, I'd just like to say that all of the other counties and the other parts of the county are covered by current deputies, Harper, Stonewall, everywhere, that we've got them spread out all over the county. So it might just be a simple case as you were at the same place where that officer was headed through town, going to the courthouse or whatever he may have been doing, and ran across a violation. He's going to take care of business wherever it is.
That seems like a pointed question that someone like me that lives out in Harper would ask, and I don't know whoever asked it, but that is a legit concern amongst the citizens here, is not seeing our deputies out in the county. This place is big. We got a lot of land mass, and if we've got all 4 guys and a supervisor, or 5 and a supervisor, if we're lucky, within the city limits, that means me and my wife out in Harper, anybody that lives out in Doss, you're looking at 20-something minutes before someone gets out there to help you. I think that's the concern that the person was asking with the question. If we want to talk about if I was a sheriff, how you'd fix it. Well, we got 4 deputies and a sergeant on. There's also 4 directions and a compass, north, south, east, and west. That's it. What we have to be able to do is spread our people out as best we can for those of us that live way out in the county. Helping the city is always important. I'm not saying we're just going to pull out of the city and not be here and stuff like that. But I believe the person that is talking about is really wanting to see the deputies out more in the far reaches of the county.
Well, if you'd like to come by, we'll get you a list of all the people that have received citations out in the county, because they are spread everywhere. The citations are. So our deputies are very visible out in the county. They're all over the place. I will tell you, though, that they do stop and eat lunch every now and then. They'll eat supper. So they do that. But then they traverse back and forth across the different areas of the county. So our officers are covering this county. You would not believe the amount of miles and stuff that they patrol daily.
Okay, now we're going to go. Did you want to? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, our boys do stop to eat, and the problem we have is they'll be checked out 5 or 6 deep at the same location. That's an issue, folks. That means your entire county is not covered. When you have 4 deputies and a supervisor eating at the same place at the same time, you can do whatever you want in every other end of this county before anyone will get there. My experience with that is I worked for the Houston Police Department. We had 6,000 officers. You could not have more than 2 marked units at any one eatery at a time. It's a rough thing to have to tell your people, because that's great to go break bread with your people, but you just can't do it. And really, if you got to be friends after work, but when you're here to work, you're here to work.
Okay, on that last question, we kind of we skipped his going first. So we're going to go first with Nick. With the new law going into effect March 5th that allows local authorities to arrest, detain, charge, appear before and thank you. Anyone suspected of being an illegal or an actual alien? How would you handle this in Gillespie County? Sorry.
It's a great law. We just got to hope it makes it past the courts. I mean, it's Class A misdemeanor. It's basically like a criminal trespass in the state thing. And, you know, it's given us some teeth. But the only reason our state legislature had to step up and do that is the feds don't help us out anymore with that. I'm sure even the sheriff will attest. We used to be able to deport people for basically suspended licenses. They're not picking, INS isn't picking them up anymore and taking them back. That's a problem. That's way above anything we're talking about here. But this is what's good about enough people getting together and voicing concerns. Well, them folks that want to be in office in the legislature, they're going to listen eventually. So what they did is create a law that gives local law enforcement some teeth as far as being able to hook them up, and then we'll take them back. It's not going to be cheap.
Okay, we're just waiting for March. We're waiting. Hopefully this law will actually pass through the courts. It'll actually become law. Our deputies are already currently doing that at this time, getting them, and we're turning them over to the Homeland Security people. They're coming get them and they haul them off. Those are the rules and the laws that we actually operate under currently. But when they changed the law, and House Bill 4 is the one that actually did it, it gives a peace officer the ability, when they contact somebody that is found to be in this country illegally, we will hold on to them, we'll take them to a court, and I believe that the magistrates in those courts will then determine whether they need to stay here to face the charges that they currently have, whatever that may be, and being in this country illegal, or they may say that it's time for them to be deported. And I do know that, unfortunately, the legislature did not put a bunch of funding in there for us to do that, but I want each and every one of y'all to know that when we catch them, I don't mind expending some of your taxpayer dollars to get them the heck out of our county, and I will transport them to wherever they need to go. We have actually done that before. We've taken some. We took a busload one time to Rock Springs because the agents couldn't get over here in a timely fashion, so we hauled them off. And that was actually a city case where we actually caught them right here on the edge of town. They were trying to flee. So we have actively been doing that, and I'm waiting for March for it to come along to see what happens with that. But until that time, we're doing what we're allowed to do by state law.
To both of these gentlemen, that's correct. When I first started in Gillespie County working for the PD, we would apprehend, we would deport, they would go back with Homeland Security, or at that time it was Border Patrol, that's who they would take them back. So I'm going to say this, I'm also waiting to see what March 5th brings us, because it could bring us a situation that we're not prepared for as a county. We may not even be prepared for as a state, because we're already doing this. We're already apprehending these individuals. It's just what's happening that we're questioning. The teeth that come with this new House bill may give us something in a better direction, but it may not be the solution that we actually think it is. I think we're going to have to wait till March 5th gets here and start implementing and doing to see what it's actually going to take.
The next question is kind of on the same thing here. It says, are you willing to round up any illegals in our county and transport them back to the border using school buses if necessary?
Well, if we get enough of them and we need a school bus to haul them all off, I'd like to have somebody that might want to volunteer for it and put a little diesel in it or whatever. We would be more than willing to take them, but you got to realize we have to catch them with something. Currently, I don't believe the law is going to give us the ability to come check your papers. And that's why I'm waiting to find out exactly how that legislation is written. I don't believe that part is going to pass, and it's not going to pass through the Supreme Court, where we will be checking your papers. You know, that's going a long ways. So that's probably not going to be occurring. But if we run across them in a violation of some sort after March 1st, depending on the law, we're going to hang on to them. And if we need to haul them off, they can't get here in time to haul them off, and take them back down to the border and escort them across the border, I'd be more than happy to do that. But it is going to be very costly because that's 157 miles one way.
I'm going to agree with what he said. I'm going to wait till March 5th, see what we address and what we deal with. And if it's something that we need to do and we need to implement that, I'm going to come to the people and say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we're doing and why we're doing it. and make sure that you understand this is our objective, is to make sure that our community is continuously safe. A lot of the concerns about the people coming across the border, it's not those individuals that are truly looking to make a better life for themselves. It's the criminal minds that are coming across the border. And I'm going to say this, folks, we have a lot of people that come from Mexico. They're not all from Mexico. I think the Mexicans take a beating on, we all think they're coming through Mexico, but we have people from way down Central America that are coming through. That's the objective, is to eliminate those people that are bad element more than just an illegal alien.
The school bus throws me off a little bit. You can't do it in a school bus. You got to get a jailbird, and that's a lot more money. And that you just keep things like that in mind, folks. It just, as far as taking bus loads back at once, that's going to get exorbitantly expensive. What I would like to see is a positive change in, or well, what I would perceive to be a positive change in the federal government that will allow us to have the teeth we had before, where our federal tax dollars took care of that. It's not like we're not paying those too. That's still our money, but we have an entire agency whose job is to regulate that. If we could go back to the days we had before, well, like I said, a Class B misdemeanor in this area would get you deported. Well, we don't have that. So they came up with the new law. I'm hopeful but optimistic. I work around lawyers, and it's probably not gonna stand. There's gonna be a lot of legal challenges to it, and that's a hurdle for way down the road, but it'll end up in the Supreme Court eventually.
This one goes to Chris. Does the sheriff/jail have the authority to change a bond previously set by magistrates?
I'm going to say the answer to that question is I don't know, but I can assure you that would be something that I would need to learn if I'm actually given the opportunity to be a sheriff for you. But I would have to think that we'd have to respect what the decision of the judge is. But there could be a solid explanation. But again, we still got to look at what the judge who implemented the original bond and why they implemented the bond. And if that person is committed a crime and we have a facility, why would we have to change a bond that is set by the judge? Why would we have to change it at the behest of a sheriff? That would be my first question. The answer is I do not know that answer, but I can promise you it's on my homework list tonight, along with Supremacy. I'm looking at that too.
Short answer is no. Custody of prisoners. Article 2.18 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. It's very specific what the sheriff can and cannot do in their duties to hold people. It's the law. Nothing else I can offer on that.
Again, I'm going to go back with the answers of someone that's been managing a jail for 15 years. Someone that has to make the tough decisions on whether somebody stays for whatever reason that may be. And based on good, sound decisions on your behalf. Unfortunately, sometimes if you've got to remember that the sheriff has the authority to take anybody out of their jail. The sheriff does have that authority. And so I just want to let you know, on the people that think that we can't do that and they don't want to work with us in order to do that, which we've been doing that for years and years and years. So we do have the ability to do it, but it is not without the express consideration from the district attorney or the county attorney regarding the removal of that person from my facility for whatever reason that may be.
I'll try to get through it, put it up on your phone if I mess it up. Custody of prisoners. When a prisoner is committed to jail by warrant from a magistrate or court, he shall, not a may, he shall be placed in jail by the sheriff. It is a violation of duty on the part of any sheriff to permit a defendant so committed to remain out of jail.
Nick, you're up. What is your experience and training in, I think we did this, supervising personnel managing personnel, and fiscal management budget allocation. We already did that, right? Okay. Will you deputize our citizens to defend our county if there is an invasion? Who's invading? I think that was one of the things we said we were not going to allow. Do you want to answer it or no? Okay, we're going to get rid of this one. This was on the no list, everybody. Okay, no wows. If elected, are you going to continue to not accept arrestees that are known drug dealers just because they have medical problems? Want me to read it again? Okay.
So that goes back to the code, and you shall take custody. That's just a bad deal, because just because somebody's sick and everything else, well, they got hospital assignments and overtime. It's a crap. I've been there. You have to go sit on them and things like that. But if you got someone that's a problem child and they've got their warrant and everything else, they got to go. None of this stuff with the jail is a great answer, an easy answer. It's just the answer. It's not going to be cheap to hold people in custody. It's just not. When you couple things with, is it medical problems? Is that right, Donna? When you couple it with things like medical problems and all that kind of stuff, well, that's sure. Okay, sorry. We're going to have to get him his medicine. It's just part of it. It's either that or what are we going to do? Oh, hey, you're sick. You're allergic to jail. Go back out and go right or go do right. We can't do it.
But I'm good with what he said. That's what I would back it up with.
Okay, again, I'm going to go back to the part about managing the jail and managing the people that are in there. I know a lot of y'all have medical bills. I know a lot of y'all love nothing more than paying for somebody that is incarcerated in our facility. I know that y'all don't mind paying for their medical bills, whatever that may be. We have nurses on staff. We have people that take care of them and assess what is wrong with them and where they need to go, what kind of treatment they may need, and then the resources to take them and move them there and take them back and forth, which is no problem. We don't mind sitting on them for a short period of time, but that is the process where we try to work with our local magistrates and judges to get them on the fast pace to PR them out of our facility, because just currently here, just the other day, we had an individual here, and I don't think he was here about 15 days or something. The bill just arrived for him, $120-something thousand. That's one inmate. So the decisions that are made on y'all's behalf, again, like I said, the decisions that are made on y'all's behalf is not easy decisions. I don't take them very lightly. They don't happen very often. It's not like this is a revolving door they get out every day on something like this. This is an isolated deal from just a couple of instances. That's all that is. That's something that's come up. I've been doing this for 15 years, and we have continued to do it because we're taking your best interest in mind. And like I said, if you think they all, it's kind of like some of this other stuff, you think they all need to deserve it, most of y'all want me to be feeding them bread with bean juice. That's what I've heard from most of the citizens here in this county. And the traditions of this county have been, let's take care of our county. I didn't know we were a hospital here to take care of everybody else. There's a hospital down the road there, and that's where we like to get them out and get them the treatment that they actually need.
With that being said, as far as the inmates in there feeding them bread, and I don't have to show you hands, but I can tell you there's a few people in this room that have experienced being incarcerated, and they have experienced it as local family members to you, to me, friends of mine have experienced incarceration. And here's what I'm saying is when they go to that jail, as much as we have to understand, every one of us in this room has had a bad day. He said it earlier, I'm going to reiterate, we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. Some of us get caught, some of us do not. And here's what I'm going to say, that when we look at the idea of someone having medical, then we need to be watching that individual. What is he doing? What's the crime? And I believe in discretion. Discretion fits across the board, and that kind of leans on what he's saying. We need to look at the bigger picture. But if this person is a habitual violator with health or anything, Our job is to keep him off the street. So if he is selling illegal narcotics and we let him out for one day because of medical and he sells another $300 or $400 worth of narcotics to our youth, then we're not done our community justice.
Okay, this next question, I think we answered it. It says the sheriff is the last line of defense against the federal government. One of you worked with the ATF to entrap a citizen. What will you do next time the feds come and try and entrap a citizen? We already answered that, correct? Okay. Next question goes to Buddy. Will you side with and defend the quote-unquote people over the government, overreach and defend the true constitutional rights?
Say that again. Are you gonna...
Will you side with and defend the people over the government, overreach and defend the true constitutional rights?
That is what I have been doing, and that is the oath of office that I have taken forever and ever. And that's what I've been doing for years and years. Did an executive order that we talked about earlier about the mask mandates and everything. You heard my answer to that. You heard what I actually did. I don't know if y'all forgot about it, but it just happened here not too long ago. I will tell you that I will always side with the individuals that I represent and the ones that put me in office to protect and defend them according to the Constitution. Now, I don't know what government you're talking about. I don't know exactly which one they're referring to, but I want you to know that we all live in this great nation. We live in this great state, and we live in this great nation together. But I will do everything I can to protect your rights from infringement. Is that what they're getting at?
Thank you.
No doubt, no question, I will defend the rights of the people. I'm already sworn as a police officer to do just that as a deputy. If sworn in as your sheriff, I would continue that to make sure that our people are protected, period.
If I'm a sheriff or the sheriff, that's a no-brainer. I can't reiterate that enough. I've talked to people at length about it. I have to be able to assuage those fears in some people, but that's top priority, and I don't know what have anything else to offer on it. It seems similar to the one that we offered or asked before. I believe it's been discussed.
We were asked this kind of in a different way, so if you think we've already answered it, let me know. What steps are you willing to take to protect the safety of Gillespie County and the Second Amendment if the federal government gets involved? Already did it? Okay. Okay, and who's up? Chris, sorry. Describe your supervisory experience that qualifies you to lead and manage Gillespie County. We did that one, right? Okay. You guys think alike. That's great. Okay. This is the last question. Okay. Under what conditions do you suspend any Texas or U.S. Bill of Rights, a pandemic, terrorist attack, natural disaster, or other? More, same question? Okay. Okay. What action would you take should a citizen of Gillespie County experience federal or state overreach with respect to individual constitutional rights? Same thing. Here we go. What is the first thing you would change if elected, or what is the first thing you would improve or change if reelected? That one already been asked? Okay, we're going to answer that one.
Okay, so for me, if I'm elected as a sheriff, I don't just come in and start changing, cleaning house, et cetera, but I will definitely have to sit down and I will definitely have to look at the current situation. One of the objectives that I have is to make sure that we are a sheriff's office for the people. And if we're not in that direction, then that's something that we're going to have to look at. Number one thing is I want to make sure that training is extremely paramount in a decision if I was to be elected sheriff and take over. We're going to make sure that every officer is taken care of in the training aspect. But here's most importantly for me. When I look at some of these officers that are experiencing some of the stress that they're out there, the one thing I want to make sure that we implement is that officers can freely walk in and say, hey, I'm struggling with what I just experienced the other day, and to make sure that we get the help for those officers that they need on a mental health. We as police officers sometimes think that we're the strong people, but even the caregivers need care from time to time. So one of the most important things that I want to do if I become your sheriff is to make sure that all our employees are on the same playing level and that they feel like they're part of the bigger vision of the sheriff's department.
We've currently been doing that since 2009. Ever since I've been in office, if there was ever anybody that needed any kind of help with either alcoholism, stress of the job, had some mental issues, we were always there for them. They could come freely and ask for help, and we would provide it for them, and we have provided it for them, because I will tell you that this is probably one of the toughest professions in the world, and if you think that it doesn't work on you and eat at you, you're deathly wrong. Unfortunately, people in different positions have no earthly idea what we as law enforcement officers, what our families, and what we experience on a daily basis.
The question was day one, is that right?
What is the first thing you would change if elected, or what is the first thing you would improve if you're reelected?
Revamping the patrol function to do what I talked about, folks. Getting your deputies outside the city limits in the county. Simple as that. It's going to be a sit down with the people and explain to them the things about sitting there eating six deep with all six of our cars in one place at the race barn on a Friday when I could go out and rob the bank in Harper and be back at the house counting the money before anyone got out there are over. Simple as that. That's it. Revamping patrol. Not talking about getting rid of people, not talking about moving things. I know there's people out there that are worried about things like that, but we have to come together to serve the citizens better. That means getting outside and doing our jobs.
Yeah, I haven't answered it.
Go ahead. You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. We have currently been providing an excellent service here to the Gillespie County. Like I said, your officers are scattered all throughout the county. And the part about them, heck, every time I walk in a restaurant somewhere, usually the people say, well, this is the best time I ought to go rob a bank. That has happened to us forever and ever. It's just part of the nature of the job. That's just part of it. The officers stop and eat, and they traverse back out into the county. Response times, there's other officers out in the county. And so that's one of the things that we have continued to do. And I believe that evidently this must seem like this has been a big issue. But you know what? Until this time, nobody's ever said anything about it. They have always been traversing through the county and working throughout the county. We watch them on the little screen up there in the office. So about where we eat and what we eat, I mean, unfortunately, we're humans. We do have to stop and eat.
Yeah. Nobody's saying people can't eat. I'm not suggesting deputies can't eat together. I'm trying to explain to the citizens what a safety issue it is to have everyone at the same place at the same time.
Okay, I'm going to talk for a few minutes. That way they will be able to get your thoughts together. You're going to get 3 minutes, buddy, for your closing statement. But I want to thank everybody for coming out and bearing with us. Sorry it didn't go as smoothly as some wanted, and we didn't answer some of the questions some people wanted. But thank you very much. I think it's very important that we're all informed. Don't forget, now that you're informed, I hope this helps you make a decision. Don't forget, with this decision, you need to vote. Okay? I'm sorry, I don't know the day to vote. When is it? March 5th. Okay. So don't forget, get out there, vote. Close your ears, little ones. You can't complain. I was going to say something else, but I'll just say, you can't complain if you don't vote. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to let each one of them go ahead and say something. Oh, one more thing. Please, please, on your way out, take your trash. There's trash cans at the end, and throw it away for me, please. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. Now we get the closing statements, 3 minutes apiece. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I just want to let you know, as your sheriff, what I have been doing for the last 15 years, the strides that we have made, the proactiveness that we have been doing has been working quite well, because I can't remember, I don't think we've had any bank robberies. We have had some crime that comes into this area. I don't know of any calls that have actually occurred when the deputies are actually eating lunch. There might be some, but I want you to know that if that seems to be an issue here, that there is something that I plan on addressing. Seems it's kind of strange that it come up, but it did. So I tell you what, the person that is an active leader of the sheriff's office has to realize and come to pass that there's something wrong. There's an issue brought up. And if the sheriff does not make any changes or change anything, then that is someone that you probably don't want to reelect. But I want you to know that I have actively been doing a great job here. I hope that I've been doing a great job. I've been very frugal with your taxpayer money. That was the biggest issue that everybody was always concerned about. So I want you to know that I am humbly asking for y'all to vote for me so I can continue to provide the services here in Gillespie County that y'all have so graciously enjoyed for all these years. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank all of y'all for being here this evening, including those people back at home that were able to watch it on Fredericksburg Live. The key thing for me is to remind you that being a police officer and being a sheriff and running a sheriff's office is not always about kicking in doors. It's also about listening to the people of your county, listening to what they believe is their needs, and addressing their thoughts. They may not be right, but they also may not be wrong. I believe that as a servant of this community, because that's the most important thing that I never can forget, if elected, is I'm a servant of this community. And my ultimate goal is to listen to the people, look at the stats, look at the situations that are currently taking place in Gillespie County, make sure that we train to provide the best service for you, the people of Gillespie County. The most important thing for me is for you to know that you will have a voice, and that voice can be exercised starting February 20 for early voting, and then definitely on March the 5th. Folks, this is your county. Tell us what you want, and I appreciate you and your support for my office. If I'm elected, I appreciate your vote, and I appreciate you taking the time out this evening. Thank you.
Well, it's the first time three of us been up here at the same time and people firing questions. There's several more events out there, and I just ask each and every one of you to make an informed decision at the end of the day. This talking up in front of a mic and sitting here and tooting your own horn and all that stuff is second nature to me. I've just been a cop. I want to be a good cop, and I want to be your great sheriff for y'all. So keep in mind, there's going to be more events. Get out there. You got to start telling a friend that, hi, Mom, we're on TV. More people need to be involved, but if y'all spread the word and tell them, you come up there and ask questions. This is a rough spot for three people to be in, for things to get fired. But what I would ask you to do is take note that some of these questions seem very pointed, and there's reasons for that. So all I would ask you to do is talk to your friends, talk to your family, and talk to your neighbors about the issues that you've experienced. And if you decide you're ready for change, take a look into what I've done and what I've told you I'm going to do for you in the future. Thanks.
Let's hear for all of them. Thank you very much. They'll be around if anybody has any questions that they want to ask them personally on the side, that's fine. Thank you again. Drive careful out there.